Almost 45 years ago, some of you weren't even born. Almost 45 years ago, when a seeming happy-go-lucky kid at UVic, one day I was invited to and attended Mass. I wasn't going all the time, I've said this before. I was invited to attend Mass with a basketball friend of mine, Eli Pasquale, and when I was at that Mass, something happened. Something was said in the homily, and whatever it was, and I can't remember now for the life of me, but something sparked a journey leading me to go from knowing about Jesus. I'd been raised a Catholic, catechism, you know, the routine, Catholic elementary school, St. Mary's in Capriol. So I knew about Jesus, but I went from that to knowing it started me on a journey to knowing the person of Jesus. It's very different. You can know about him, an atheist can know about him, but to know the person of Jesus is a very different thing. And it didn't happen all at once. The spark was there, but it had to kind of percolate and grow and so on. But it started at that moment. That's what I remember. Jesus was no longer a story, but a life-altering person. And to be very honest, it wasn't life-altering all at once, all right? It was, and still is, a process. In my case, I slowly began to be more and more aware that God was calling me to be a priest. And also that my life had to look different. It not only look different on the outside, when I say look different, I mean like integrated. It had to actually be different. I was playing with a bunch, basketball players, and, some of them are Christian, Catholic, some of them had no religion. So, these guys, they could sniff out inauthenticity pretty quick. It's like, come on, BJ, are you serious? And some of them had great respect, and some of them were saying like, okay, we'll wait and see. These guys could sniff it out pretty quick. We played together as a team, so we knew each other's weaknesses and so on. But I knew my life had to look different. If not for any other purpose, then these guys had to show them what I was sensing inside was really authentic. It was really me. It was something that I cared about. And if I was true to what was happening, I would basically have to tell others in some way. I would have to tell others. Jesus and his resurrection really demands to be shared. If we receive it and it is revealed to us and we just keep it to ourselves like, oh, my religion is a private thing, it becomes like a swamp. It's like nowhere to go. It doesn't circulate and it rots. It atrophies if you think about faith like a muscle. We have to receive the revelation like a stream where it's worked, it's received and is given, and then we receive more because the source is infinite. It may take us a while to kind of put these ideas together, but we sense that I can't keep this to myself. And so, like the first disciples, we need to kind of almost run from the tomb, not out of fear, but bursting with awe and urgency. Perhaps you've had moments like this, or maybe you're looking for one. Maybe you're looking for the connection between what do I believe and how do I actually act based on how I believe. Because this means connection, it means authenticity, it means genuineness, and ultimately it means purpose. And there's a lot of purpose-hungry people in the world. There are a lot of purpose-hungry people here. We all need purpose. And perhaps this might have occurred to you in some way, like it occurred to me 40-some years ago. It might have occurred similar to my experience. It might have occurred when you've come to Mass and all of a sudden what you used to call that bread, it's no longer bread. It isn't bread whether you believe it or not, because it becomes the body of Christ. But for you personally, it's Jesus. It really is. So it goes from me talking about maybe or thinking that's just, oh yeah, I get the bread, to actually, no, this is actually the body of Christ. This is a real person. Or recently, perhaps you've attended an Alpha course here at Corpus Christi or somewhere else, and it's changed something. I mean, I've heard the testimonies, how it has changed people who really weren't looking intentionally for a change. They were just going to try it out, look for connection, but they weren't looking for this kind of change, this connection with Jesus Christ. Perhaps this has happened and still you find it difficult to speak about it. You still find it difficult to speak about it. And that is not an unnatural thing, but it needs to be looked at in the face. It needs to be articulated. It needs to be owned, if you will. Because we will post pictures of our dinners, and sometimes we're not even in the picture. Like we just get a picture of a dinner. Or a picture of our vacations. All of these things are fine. They're innocuous, or they mean something to those who really know us. But we do this, and yet we don't say a word about the greatest news in history. Why? There's a lot of reasons. That could be a homily or a sermon unto itself. But maybe one of them is the fact that we forget, we're not aware of the fact that we weren't meant to be the ones to reveal the resurrection. We are only called to be witnesses to it. Or to use a modern expression, I'm the messenger. Don't kill the messenger, I'm just a messenger, right? That's the way we do it. No, hey, I'm just a messenger. So I'm not the source of the message, I'm just a messenger. And it's true, we are the messenger. In the gospel of the day, St. John paints the moment by saying the tomb is empty. Jesus is risen. But a closer look says that no one saw him rise. And this was very intentional on the Lord's part. He could have waited. He could have waited till they came to the tomb and then said, hello, here I am. But he didn't do that. No one saw him rise. Mary Magdalene, Peter, and John only found the evidence of the resurrection. And again, this is not the main purpose, but for all scientific people who say, I got to have proof, you're not going to get verifiable proof like a scientific experiment. But what they saw had no human explanation. And what they saw is, remember that when he died, this is just one little thing, it's a bit of a sidebar. I try not to do this too much because I can do it too easily. But this is really important. What did they see, the evidence? They saw a cocoon that hard. And the reason is because, remember, on the day he died, they brought 100 pounds of ointment, and as they wrapped him in the shroud, they would paste this ointment on him. Basically, he was mummified. And he was like this, if you've seen the Shroud of Turin. So even if Jesus had woken up, he couldn't get out. It was impossible. He was like head to toe, right up to here. He'd have to have one heck of a sharp knife, but even then be able to move his arm. Because the wrappings were like that hard. They had a hollow sound to them. He had to pass through it. He had to. There was no human explanation. So that's just part of the evidence. Only Jesus reveals the resurrection in his own person. The angels themselves are messengers. Everyone else, even Peter and the beloved disciple, were witnesses to what he had done. And this is what Peter proclaims in Acts chapter 10. We are witnesses of all that he did. God raised him on the third day and allowed him to be seen by us who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. Think about it, even the transfiguration. Only Peter, James, and John in this case were allowed to see Jesus in his glory just for a moment. But even then, they were told not to speak of it until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they had to pass it on after that time. Why? Because the resurrection would be the ultimate revelation of who Jesus is. Only he can unveil that. The rest of us, we are simply witnesses. We are the messenger, if you will. Have you allowed Jesus, the reality of the resurrection, to transform your life? It's It's a question we all need to reflect on. Not just to believe it, but to actually strive to live it. To show it by the way you live, or at least try. At least try. Not just to celebrate Easter, but to actually live like it's true. Like, how has this changed my life? Has it changed my life? How do I want it, as I'll mention again in a moment, how do I want this to change my life? So do your children know you believe in the resurrection? And I don't mean intellectually. You can tell them, you can read it, it can all be rote. But do they know that you believe that Jesus is really alive? Not because you told them once or many times, but because they see it. And this is ultimately what it's going to come down to. They, as an individual that I listen to a lot now, one of his maxims is, people do not care what you know until they know that you care. And then they will care what you know. You all get it? It's just authenticity, right? They won't care what you know until they know what you care. They know that you care for them. And then they will care what you know. 100 times. People, priests, parents, children. It's like, it's there all the time. Just reflect on it. So, do your children know? But because of the way they see how you forgive. Sometimes children should never see their parents, melt down on each other. That's, if you've heard me before, it's a dogma of mine. But if it happens, then they need to see you forgive each other, because they need to learn. They are learning how to forgive. If they've seen you do something you maybe shouldn't have done in front of them, they need to see how you're trying to correct it, because they're learning. It's not, you don't have to sit them down and say, lesson time. They just need to see you striving to forgive each other. It's a huge lesson in life. Do they see you try to pray, or you pray, how you love, how you prioritize Sunday? Because Sunday is the Lord's day. This isn't about a guilt trip trying to make people come to church to check a box. It's the Lord's day. It's consecrated by his resurrection. It is the Lord's day. Do I treat the Lord's day as the Lord's day? Do my kids see this? Do your friends see that you really try to live differently? And you're not trying to put on a show. You're not trying to be better than anybody else. You're just trying to be authentic, genuine. You're not a stiff. You're not a pain in the face. It's easier to say than the other thing. But you're just somebody trying to be authentic. You're trying to be genuine. But there's something different about you. Not out of guilt or obligation, but because something incredible has happened to your life. God has entrusted you with the greatest message the world has ever heard. Not to keep quiet, but to witness to it. Through word, action, joy, and ultimately love. Christians should be the greatest lovers the world knows. And it's not about romance in the typical sense of the word, but it's true love. It's love in being faithful. It's love in being there. It's love in all those other things that we all long for. Now we are in the Easter season, and the world desperately needs witnesses of the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. They need to see, why is it different? What is different about this stuff? Let us really try to live this Easter season for love. And love sometimes means I pray when I don't want to pray. Sometimes I find it difficult to pray. I'm a pretty disciplined individual, but there's sometimes when it's really hard. But I just try to do it. Now I'm telling people now, to do this. Just say get it done. Do it. Just do it. It's like, I don't want to do it. Just do it. All right. So I have a battle within myself at times. But it's really important, because that's what it's all about. It's not every day is going to be the 4th of July. No, it's not going to happen. It's like ordinary stuff, and some days, more coffee is needed, and maybe some days no coffee should be consumed. So really, let's try to live Easter for love, a love that truly wills the good for another. Sometimes it's willing my own good, doing something that I know is good for me that I find it very difficult to do. But I'm trying to witness to the fact that Jesus is alive, And you know, the most difficult witness is when nobody's around. Nobody's around. I could cheat. But I try to say to myself, BJ, you got to be an authentic individual. If you mean this stuff, if you believe this stuff, you got to be doing this when nobody's around. That's when it counts. That's when it counts. Because when people are around, it will be more natural. Not looking at it for a show, just looking to do it, because it's what you really believe. So I encourage you this week to do a couple of things. They all kind of flow into each other. Take 5 minutes today to name one way that your life looks different because of the resurrection. One way your life looks different because Jesus has risen from the dead. Or even one way you want your life to look different. One way you want to look your life to look different, and write it down. Write it down on a Post-it or put it on your tablet or phone so you can go back and look at it and look at it and look at it. And then share that this week with your children. Talk about a conversation starter. And you don't have to say I'm perfect. Children don't need perfect parents. They need parents who are just parents who are authentic and they're trying to do better. So share that this week with your children, your spouse, or your friend, even on social media. Then ask God each morning, it's a very simple question. You can put it this way or put it your own way. How can I witness to the resurrection today? How can I be an authentic man or a woman before you and before others? How can I witness to the fact that you've changed my life, you changed the meaning of life? Because you did this, nobody else has done it. Because remember that Jesus alone reveals the resurrection. Now we are called to witness to that victory.